They say defense wins championships. Defense could also win fantasy football games. So I'm going to give you 5 defenses I like on the waiver wire this week. You should go out there and grab. And the number 1 defense, if they're still there, if teams didn't scoop them up this week after they versed the Giants, is the Philadelphia Eagles. They versed the Dallas Cowboys, who cannot move the football. Washington, they put on a clinic yesterday versus Dallas with a bunch of sacks. They had no time, Dallas, to throw. The whole offensive line's beaten up. And the Eagle defense, they're going to be feasting this Sunday night versus that Dallas offense. And if the rookie Ben DiNucci starts, forget about it. It's going to be a massacre out there for that Cowboy offense. And that Philly defense is going to get you a lot of fantasy points with that. The second defense I like going into Week 8, and they're probably on your fantasy wire too, is the Detroit Lions versus the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts offense, weird offense this year. Phillip Rivers, you know he's a gunslinger. You knew that throughout his whole career. And he's just going to throw that ball up, and whatever happens, happens. The Lions, they could make a few plays. I know they're not rostered in many leagues, actually any leagues. They're only 2% owned, is the Detroit Lions. But I like their matchup this week. You don't even have to waste the waiver to get them most likely. You could just go out there and pick them up, is Detroit. The third defense I like, and you could pick them up right here tonight before the game starts because they're on the bye week coming off, is the Colts versus that Detroit Lion offense. The Colts, their defense has been pretty stout this year. They're rostered in 60% of leagues, but they still should be out there in your fantasy football leagues, is the Colts. They got Detroit coming up. I think this could be a defensive battle in a way. The Colts this year, they've been scoring good fantasy points. They've had 4 games of double-digit fantasy points this year is the Colts, so that's pretty solid. They get their sacks. They're good at that, and they could get some touchdowns too. They got 3 special teams and defense touchdowns in the season. So I wouldn't shy away from the Colts, so they still might be out there for a good pickup right now on your wire. The 4th defense I like coming into the week is the Tennessee Titans, even though we've seen them in a lot of shootouts over the past few weeks. They got the Cincinnati Bengals coming up. You know, Joe Burrow, he's been playing good the last few weeks, especially yesterday with 400 yards in a losing effort, though. But Burrow, young rookie, you know he's going to make a couple bad error throws, especially if he's going to throw the ball 35, 40 times, which he has just about every game this season, and then getting sacked because that Cincinnati Bengal offensive line is very weak. So I like Tennessee. They're out there in a bunch of fantasy leagues. They're actually out there in 73% of fantasy leagues. So the Tennessee Titans is a good defense. I think you could go out there and pick up, and you could expect maybe 10 to 12 points or more next week versus Cincinnati in the Week 8. And the 5th and final defense I'm going to look to pick up on waivers this week is the New Orleans Saints. I know they've been struggling most of the season, but they got a struggling Chicago Bear offense that I don't know what you really could expect from them. So the Saints, they could get to the quarterback maybe. They could get a couple windows in here. I know they've been banged up yesterday. They didn't have a great performance. But the Bears, their offense is in sync with Nick Foles. We'll see what the Bears do tonight versus the Rams. I don't expect much, and I could see Foles getting sacked a few times from Cam Jordan and that Saints D, and maybe throwing it though or two. So they're definitely worth the pickup, I think, even though they've been struggling all season, or the New Orleans Saints on defense. So they're 40% out there, not rostered. So that's 5 defenses I'm looking to pick up on the waiver wire this week to give you a little boost going into Week 8 of the fantasy football season.